But sure.
Definitely have that.
Yeah.
It's for the record.
It's for the.
Which that.
Tell lawyers it's for the record. We're just gonna make sure this mic is working.
Yeah, just make sure you look at the point at that direction. It's got to go pretty forward. Maybe make sure it's on.
It's making lights.
Try holding it up from here.
Does it work?
Maybe you can advance the slide for her.
If you can help me, that'd be great.
Yeah, just raise your hand up and I'll.
We can tag team over that. So I'm from Canada.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so delighted to be here. I'm the founder of the Chamber of Digital Commerce Canada. And basically this has a long history as an organization. I won't bore you with it. But it started in 2013 as the Bitcoin Alliance, and then it moved along. And then, you know, Canada's a small place. We can like fit the entire country into California and still have room. So it made a lot of sense to me as a global thinker to strategize how to be seen more globally as North America. And so with Perry Ann Boring, who's the founder of the Chamber of Digital Commerce in DC, we strategized a way forward, and out came Chamber of Digital Commerce Canada. So we have a mandate, which I think you can all see, I hope, of advancing the conversations basically on blockchain. And they've been stalled and delayed in Canada quite a bit. People were all in for a minute and then they got cold feet. I think everybody here probably knows about that. But one of the interesting things in our country is we are well known for innovation, and we're doing a really great job at presenting an innovative hub to the world. Investors, inventors, people want to be in Canada. There's other places they could be, but they like living in Canada, and we have a lot of fantastic business perks that bring them there, including a 50% tax credit on tech labor. So that's pretty good, and a dollar that's struggling, so it's also good. So if you're an investor, it's one of the hot tips for Canada. So if we can advance this slide, that would be great. So, go again. Just go back one. Oh, that. Yeah, back again. Back again. Yeah. And then one forward. Go again. It seems to be out of order. Anyway, we can start wherever. So we started out, and there hadn't been any national trade voice in Canada, so we needed one. We needed one because we were getting out lobbied by all the other technology groups. So if you look at AI in Canada, you'll see all kinds of media coverage saying how Canada's got this incredible global hub for AI, and nothing about blockchain. And yet, we are delivering some of the most interesting solutions, including Ethereum, which was born in Toronto, and CryptoKitties and all kinds of other interesting activity in space. So when we got looped in last October, so about a year ago, we started on an AML consultation. Canada is one of the first countries now to have AML law in place for blockchain, which is great because, again, it provides certainty to the ecosystem as well as to investors and enterprise participants. Ontario being a hot hub for fintech, particularly in Canada, lots of money that flows through Ontario, lots of big deals, lots of blockchain. Our financial minister came out basically day one. His very first public announcement was he was going to support blockchain, which is a really important public position. We became a member of the Ontario Securities Commission FinTech Advisory Committee. We're now guiding all kinds of activity that the OSC is doing. The OSC is the strongest securities regulator in Canada. They came out with the Canadian securities regulators. So some of this probably doesn't relate, but it is important to know. With the first ever crypto trading platforms proposal. And they're trying to figure out now, as has been the case in the US for quite some time, so it's all new to us, how to handle tokens that are securities, tokens that are not securities, when they need to care, and provincially, so like state-wise, but provincially, we've had a lot of conversations where the provinces want to say everything is a security, because everything's been done to the securities regulators to figure out, but federally, we don't agree, and it isn't necessarily the case that other arms of the government provincially also agree. We have taxation on these things, so there was an excise tax act trying to put GST on cryptocurrency exchanges, so a sales tax. We pushed back on that. And then now we're in what's actually exciting, which is what I'm excited to share today, an election. Because you're going to be here in short order. And what I really want to share is some of the thinking around how to help the community strategize during election season. So you can advance this slide. Go back to, I think something's happening with my PDFs. There we go. So After a year of consultation, in fact it's really more like 3, we got something down in writing and delivered an election strategy to all parties. And we found basic things that we were going to ask for. So clarity and consistency in all of our laws and policies. We saw laws define cryptocurrency differently. There isn't one set of laws that define it the same, which means you still don't know what you're doing. Investors don't have confidence investing in Canada. It's a bit of a stressful exercise for them. And companies don't know how long they're going to grow and when they're going to have big legal bills to have to deal with. We also asked for more support from the government, and we've asked now that we set up a blockchain caucus as well as an ongoing industry government roundtable. So some of these things you actually have going on now in the US through the Chamber of Digital Commerce in Washington. So this year they put out a national action plan, which I encourage you all to look at. Also, they formed a blockchain caucus in DC with the politicians, so you should also be paying attention to that space. Because politicians don't really understand this. They have so many files in a day. They don't get blockchain. They think they get AI, but they don't really get blockchain. So we can advance the slide. Good. So why I was so excited today to come, and I think you're all superstars for hanging out with me in this room, but we put out the first ever economic measurement report for the country on blockchain. And I'm going to share with you a couple of the results. I'm excited by them because we've never had anything like this, but when you start to lay down frameworks like this, it makes it really hard for policy people and government people to ignore that you're an ecosystem. You are actually an industry. You are something that's actually happening that needs support and investment. So we can advance. So this is our country. So if you're thinking about investing in Canada, where would you go? You probably want to go to the western part of Canada, which isn't far. What we're seeing right now in Alberta is some really interesting activity with petroleum companies. So the first ever Calgary-Houston oil consortium has just been announced. It was announced 2 weeks ago. It's ExxonMobil, it's Shell, Husky, Chevron, and a bunch of others. That's a big deal, because this is a very old school incumbent industry that doesn't adopt to technological change easily. The fact that there's some that cross-border activity with big players, we should be watching the space. So we're excited about that. The other interesting thing that's coming out of Alberta is the food supply chain work. So a company called Trust Bix, so Trust B-I-X, did the first ever blockchain solution for beef from gate to plate. And they did it with McDonald's, and it was incredibly successful. So they're now advancing their work globally on the beef supply chain and around traceability. So if you didn't know about Canada, is we're a heavy agriculture and natural resources country. So this is a great place to be doing use cases. And I encourage you, if you have curiosity, to come up afterwards or reach out to me another time, and I'm happy to introduce you to some of those companies. My third and my favorite Alberta story is the beer story. So we have Alberta, which has done a blockchain protocol for the supply chain for beer, which is cool, because now you can just feel closer to Europe. So why not? In BC, we're seeing a lot of crypto activity, a lot of mining, a lot of blockchain work. We've got blockchain, BIG is their acronym, so Blockchain Intelligence Group. They're kind of like cipher trace and chain analysis, doing all kinds of interesting analytics. BC is a really interesting place in Canada because Microsoft has a heavy presence there. They call it, there's a corridor that they've named, and I'm blanking on it at the moment, but anyway, Microsoft has a heavy presence, but so does Electronic Arts. So it's very active innovation space. EA in particular has their largest external hub in the world there in Burnaby. So the gamification talent coupled with the blockchain talent is actually naturally a fit. So if you're thinking about looking at companies up there, the talent pool is incredible. So I encourage you to think about that. Ontario is our main hub for financial services, so it's of course leading in fintech. All the big banks are there, the big Canadian ones, but also globally. So that's an interesting space, and it's got the most activity, 52% of the industry. Quebec is another highly innovative space, lots of big anchors like Ubisoft again, and Element AI and others. I think what we're going to see from this part of Canada is crypto mining centers. And they're already seeing the regulators be very positive toward crypto mining. So that's some of what's going on, and you'll see this report now online. They launched this morning. So we can change. And then this is just another view of the breakdown of the different provinces and who's active in which way. So I won't go into that. I told you some stories already, so I can finish. Great. So for us, today, because we're in elections, politicians love job numbers. They're really important. You need to be able to explain why your industry is worth supporting, and generally, if you can link it to jobs and economic growth, you're good. That's a really positive thing to do. So the national average for salary in Canada is $52,000 a year, Canadian. The average salary for a software engineer is actually $76,000 Canadian. The average salary for Canadian blockchain companies is much more. And we have never been able to tell that kind of story. I think you're going to have an equally compelling story when you do the same kind of report down here. And I think you should be looking at doing it. And so, of course, because I'm part of the chamber, we will be doing it. But if you're interested in learning more about that, let me know as well after. So we can switch. Great. So this is a number that I really think, regardless of who you are or where you are in the world, if you're thinking about this space, and if you're thinking about growing in this space, and investing in this space in particular, Canada has been ranked the #1 fastest growing country and is pegged to be the #1 fastest growing country for the next 5 years in blockchain innovation. Because we have such a welcoming climate, we welcome people with great, easy immigration processes for high-skilled talent, and we also have the 50% tax credit, which is called SHRED, and we've got a low Canadian dollar, and it's cool, people tend to want to work more and not go outside all the time. So it's not ideal, but it works if you're investing. So you should know that. And I think this is probably one of our most exciting numbers. That's the annual growth rate that we're looking at is 73%, which is great, of what is also a $200 billion global market. So we can go again. And again, if you didn't believe me the first time I told you we talk about AI and people love us, there's some news clippings to say so. So Canada's emerging as AI leader due to immigration policies. Canada is a hotbed for AI innovation. Tech companies say it's too hard to hire in the US, so they're growing in Canada. Those are slightly older, but not that old. They came from earlier this year, stories, and we've had a government for 4 years that's been very dedicated to making Canada more exciting than Europe, than Asia, and so on. And so, why does it matter that we're in Denver and I'm talking about Canada? Small country, fits in California, lots of space. We're also neighbors. We need to grow. And so the oil consortium is just one good example of how enterprise and industry can grow. Depending on the roles you play, there are partnerships and there are other consortia to build. I encourage you to look up north, and because we've got a lot going on. Knowledge sharing is also important. So my hope today was to share with you just a quick snippet of thinking about how to maybe navigate an election, or pieces you need to have in place to get the industry visibility you need during an election, because your election is going to be a big one. And also thinking about investing and innovating in our country, because we do have great opportunities and generally fantastic returns, although this is not legal or investment advice. And there it is. So if you want to hashtag out Canadian blockchain, I would be very grateful. And then last, thank you. That was quick. So you've been a very good audience, very gracious. Do you have any questions or anything you want to know about Canada?
Yes, I have a couple questions. So the digital report, we get that on your website? That's where we can get that?
Yeah, it's all online on our social.
And you mentioned that there's going to be a similar initiative in the U.S. as well. So can you talk about just the kind of scope of that and what's contained in the report?
Sure. So we put together a fairly large survey. That was the first task. And it asks academics information about academia and what courses are available, and trying to understand what's the talent pipeline look like. We ask startups what their pipeline kind of looks like, the struggles they've had, the kind of business they're doing, how many employees they have, what they're paying, average salaries. And we did the same with enterprise as well. We also surveyed government. And it was really important to try and just get a handle on the major players in the ecosystem itself. We did also survey some investors. We didn't do a large swath of investors. This is the first time that we did the past, but those are the kinds of questions that, or kinds of groups we laid out, and then really just getting at how do they make decisions? What is it that they're actually doing? And trying to get down to, this one doesn't, but we want to get down to what's the contribution, indirect and direct, to the GDP, because that's actually what the government cares about. And if you can show it this way, it's good. Job numbers are a good start. So that's how we did it, and we're happy to share it. Yeah.
Do you lobby as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That seems very useful.
Yeah. Advocacy organization. We do lots of lobbying. So the chamber, we had a big lobby day in DC the week of the Facebook hearings. So we were able to provide significant information to many people in Washington. We had over 120 meetings that day. We had a big flying with companies. It was fantastic. So if you're not members of the chamber, you didn't know about that, you should be. And we do the same in Ottawa. So we do a Hill Day where we educate. These numbers, they're what government has needed that hasn't had. So, yeah.
Is Canada considering any kind of digital identities?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked. So digital identity, actually, there's a publication today in our major paper. The government has been working with the banks, it's a group called DIAC. So they're a digital identity consortium, basically. Mostly it's major banks involved in government. The major banks working with a group called SecureKey, and they were trying to put out an identification solution, but based on their protocol. It wasn't going to be self-sovereign identity, and so there's been a shift by the government. So we actually have like this incredible brain in our Treasury Board, which is our kind of big government department, one of the more influential ones, who's very interested in digital identity. And he's put out a bunch of papers on GitHub and whatnot, so I can send it to you. But it shows you like the real thinking that the levels he's at now, and the government's adopting them, which is excellent. So we should have an interesting set of digital identity solutions over the next 12 months. They've done the first ever digital passporting with the Netherlands this year. Our Bank of Canada did a settlement. It wasn't digital identity necessarily, but it was an interesting settlement with the Monetary Authority of Singapore for central bank coins. That was exciting. But yeah, there's a lot more.
Healthcare?
Healthcare, I wish I could say more on healthcare, not yet. Healthcare is provincial for us, so the provinces are just, they've dumped everything into the securities side of things. They haven't realized that there's the whole other side. So I think Ontario will start to show some healthcare solutions probably in the next 18 to 12 months. But there's room for companies to come in. So our government, we like public-private partnerships. So if you've got a solution and you can find a link to Canada, then there's a great opportunity to approach government and say, let's do a test case together. And we're getting that kind of pickup really, really nicely in Ontario. So we've got towns doing it for paying property taxes and all kinds of other things. So there's a big appetite for partnerships. You're welcome. So now you're going to follow up with me. Anything else? Gracious audience, thank you very, very much.
Essentially, is that?
Oh, excellent. Hey, thanks so much. Just taking it out. So that's Good story. Thank you. Awesome. Here's some information about Denver International Airport.
Then I would be able to say, what I'm offering. Circulate people that I'm going to provide services to each other. I understand that. There's a platform. This is something that I also
She's losing it too.
I was just looking for the, so there's like a base slide that was on the show. That's
So this is, if they were to, then the other one is the one that's it's just
Well, let's figure this out then.
so they want an NCIR, is that what it was? And the VA said, hey, we really like that. Here's some seed money.
We did the first one.
We provided data and data was all of that.
Basically making the operations. Totally. And it's to grow, like, because of county as a neighbor, CPA lots of anyway, and they're really underrepresented. So they help us to keep the blockchain association of Canada. Yeah, but it wasn't set up, just basically, it wasn't set up to make industry, it was like individual members who wanted industry. Because government wasn't listening.